The ancient bridge stretched across the dark canyon like a spine of forgotten gods. It was the only crossing point for 300 kilometers in any direction, and every traveler who wished to reach the colony settlements on the other side had no choice but to walk its weathered stone path. The bridge itself was older than any record in the galactic archives. Some said it was built by the first ones, the mysterious race that had seeded life across the galaxy before vanishing into the cosmic void. Others believed it was a natural formation, shaped by winds and time into something that only resembled intelligent design. None of that mattered to the group of travelers who now stood at the bridge's entrance, staring at the massive creature that blocked their path. The golem rose from the stone like a mountain given life. Its body was carved from granite so old that moss and lichen had formed patterns across its surface like strange tattoos. Muscles of rock bulged beneath its stone skin, and its eyes glowed with an amber light that seemed to pierce through flesh and bone. It stood perfectly still, arms crossed over its chest, waiting with the patience of something that had waited for thousands of years and would wait for thousands more. Captain Elena Vasquez of the human exploration vessel Endeavor stepped forward from the group. Behind her stood her crew of 4 humans and a mixed company of alien travelers who had joined them at the last way station. There were 2 Velrani, tall insectoid beings with compound eyes that reflected the dim light. 3 Corthan merchants huddled together, their blue skin pale with fear. A single Draxian warrior stood apart from the others, his forearms gripping his weapons tightly, though even he seemed reluctant to challenge the massive guardian. The golem's voice rumbled like an earthquake when it spoke. The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, vibrating through the stone beneath their feet. Those who wish to cross must answer my riddle. Fail, and you shall not pass. This is the law. This has always been the law. One of the Valrni clicked its mandibles nervously. We have heard of this creature. Many have tried to answer its riddles over the centuries. Few have succeeded. The golem asks questions that have no answers, puzzles that cannot be solved. The Draxian warrior growled and took a step forward. I say we fight our way through. It is just stone. Stone can be broken. The golem's eyes flashed brighter, and the ground trembled. Many have tried. None have succeeded. I am eternal. I am unbreaking. I am the guardian, and I will remain the guardian until the stars grow cold. Elena raised her hand, signaling for calm. She studied the golem with careful eyes, noting the way it moved, the slight shifts in its posture, the ancient symbols carved into its chest. She had read about these guardians in the old Earth myths, stories of creatures that tested travelers with wisdom rather than strength. The pattern was universal, appearing in cultures across the galaxy. There was always a puzzle, always a test, always a way through for those clever enough to find it. We will answer your riddle, Elena said, her voice steady and clear. The Corthan merchants gasped. Human, you are mad. The riddle cannot be solved. We should turn back and find another way. There is no other way, Elena replied. And I have never met a riddle that cannot be solved. Let us hear it. The golem lowered its massive arms and took a step forward. The bridge shook with each movement, and small stones tumbled into the canyon below. When it spoke again, its voice carried the weight of ages. I am the thing that all beings seek, yet when found, I am often lost. I am the treasure that cannot be bought, yet is given freely by some and hoarded by others. I am stronger than the mightiest weapon, yet I can be broken by a single word. I exist between 2 beings, yet I belong to neither. I grow stronger with time, yet can vanish in an instant. What am I? Silence fell over the group. The Velrani exchanged confused glances, their antennae twitching as they processed the riddle. The Corthan merchants whispered among themselves, running through their vast knowledge of trade and commerce, finding nothing that fit. The Draxian warrior simply stood there, his face blank with confusion. Elena felt her crew shift behind her. She could sense their tension, their fear, their hope that she would find the answer. Lieutenant Marcus Chun, her second in command, leaned close and whispered, "Captain, I have run the riddle through every database we have. There are dozens of possible answers, but none that fit all the criteria perfectly. That is because you are thinking like a machine," Elena whispered back. "The first ones did not create these guardians to test knowledge. They created them to test wisdom. There is a difference." She stepped closer to the golem, close enough to feel the ancient energy radiating from its stone body. She looked up into those amber eyes and saw something there that surprised her: loneliness. The creature had stood here for countless years, asking its riddle, watching travelers fail, watching them turn back or try to fight and fall. It was not cruel. It was simply doing what it had been made to do, waiting for someone who truly understood. "The answer," Elena said slowly, "is trust." The golem went perfectly still. The amber light in its eyes flickered. "Trust is what all beings seek," Elena continued. "Yet when we find it, we often take it for granted and lose it. It cannot be bought with money or power. Yet some people give it freely while others guard it like treasure. It is stronger than any weapon because armies built on trust can conquer worlds. Yet a single lie can destroy it completely. It exists between people, but it belongs to neither one alone. It grows stronger the longer it is maintained, yet it can vanish in a single moment of betrayal." The other travelers stared at her in amazement. The Velrani clicked their mandibles in what might have been applause. The Korthan merchants looked at each other with new respect. Even the Draxian warrior lowered his weapons, his expression thoughtful. The golem remained frozen for a long moment. Then, slowly, it began to move. But instead of attacking or stepping aside, it did something that none of them expected. It knelt. The massive stone creature lowered itself to one knee before Elena, its head bowed in what could only be described as respect. "In 10,000 years, the golem said, its voice softer now, almost gentle, "you are the first to answer correctly. Many have guessed at knowledge, at love, at power, at time. They think in terms of things that can be measured and weighed. But you, human, you understood that the greatest treasures are those that exist only between souls." Elena felt a warmth spread through her chest. Why trust? Why did the first ones choose that as the answer? The golem raised its head, and for the first time, something like emotion showed in those ancient eyes. Because the first ones believed that trust was the foundation of all civilization. Without trust, there can be no cooperation. Without cooperation, there can be no progress. They built this bridge as a test, not of intelligence, but of wisdom. They wanted to ensure that only those who understood the true nature of connection would reach the lands beyond. It rose to its feet, and the ground shook once more. But this time, the trembling felt different. It felt like awakening. "You may pass," the golem said. "All of you may pass." The human has earned passage for her entire company. The Korthan merchants rushed forward, eager to cross before the offer could be withdrawn. The Velrani followed more slowly, pausing to study the golem with scientific curiosity. The Draxian warrior walked past Elena and stopped, turning to face her with an expression she could not read. "Human," he said, "I have fought in 100 battles. I have killed enemies with my bare hands. I thought that strength was the answer to all problems. You have shown me something today. I am in your debt," Elena smiled. "There is no debt. Just remember what you learned here. Sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to fight." The warrior nodded slowly, a gesture of respect among his people, and then continued across the bridge. Elena waited until the others had gone before approaching the golem one final time. The creature watched her with those ancient eyes, and she felt as though it could see straight into her soul. "Will you stand here forever?" she asked. "Waiting for travelers who may never come?" The golem was silent for a long moment. "It is my purpose. It is what I was made to do." "Purpose can change," Elena said. "The first ones are gone. The galaxy has moved on. Perhaps it is time for you to find a new purpose." Something shifted in the golem's expression. For the first time in 10,000 years, it seemed to consider the possibility of something other than endless waiting. "You speak strangely, human. Your kind is young among the stars. You should not have such wisdom." Elena laughed softly. "Humans are strange creatures. We are weak compared to many species. We cannot see in the dark like the Varani, or fight like the Draxians, or calculate like the Korthan. But we have learned something important over our short history. We have learned that the bonds we form with others are the only things that truly matter. Everything else is just details." The golem considered her words. Then, slowly it began to move. It stepped aside from the bridge, walking to the edge of the canyon where it stood looking out at the vast landscape beyond. "Perhaps," it said quietly, "I will think on what you have said. Perhaps purpose can indeed change. Perhaps even a guardian can learn new things." Elena placed her hand on the golem's stone leg, feeling the ancient power humming beneath the surface. "If you ever decide to leave this place, look for us among the stars. Humans are always looking for new friends. And we could use a guardian like you." She turned and walked across the bridge, following her companions to the other side. Behind her, the golem stood at the canyon's edge, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors of gold and red. For the first time in 10,000 years, it felt something that it had forgotten it could feel: hope. The travelers made camp that night on the far side of the canyon. Around the fire, the different species sat together, sharing food and stories. The Korthan merchants told tales of distant markets and valuable goods. The Varani described the mathematical beauty of their home world. The Draxian warriors spoke of battles won and lessons learned. And when they asked Elena how she had known the answer to the riddle, she simply smiled and looked up at the stars. "Humans have been asking that riddle for thousands of years," she said. "In different forms, with different words, but always the same question. What makes civilization possible? What allows strangers to become friends? What turns enemies into allies? The answer has always been the same: trust. Without it, we are just animals fighting over scraps. With it, we can reach the stars." The fire crackled, and the alien travelers looked at the human woman with new understanding. They had thought humans were simple creatures, new to the galactic stage, still learning their place among the older races. But they were beginning to realize that humanity carried something special within them, a wisdom born not from age, but from experience, from struggle, from the countless times they had been knocked down and chosen to rise again. Tomorrow they would continue their journey, but tonight they sat together around the fire, bound by something that transcended species or culture or history: trust. And somewhere behind them, on the edge of a canyon older than memory, a stone guardian watched the stars and wondered what new purpose might await among them.